With me reaching up.
Okay, we're live.
Hello, and welcome to this Friday's edition of the Octopus Movement podcast, where we celebrate the extraordinary multi-potentiality of nonlinear thinkers and their undeniable impact on the world. And welcome for this very special edition in Autism Awareness Month. And if you were thinking of celebrating by having whole lemon lemonade, I've tried it for you, and let me tell you, don't bother. It was gross. But I'm your host, Aidan Gillan-Bronze, and today I'm joined by someone who's the ideal person to come to if your relationships turn out a bit like your coffee, emotionally unavailable. She's no stranger to grabbing life by the beans. It's Jana Belugina, transformation coach, coffee lover, and founder of Beam to Beam. She's here to ask us, we're here to understand how she's leveraged her nonlinear mind to grab life by the beans. And as a founding member of the Octopus Movement, Jana's tentacles are all over the group's powerful vision: linear meets nonlinear, the human mycelium grows, unsolvable solved, and sustainable future blooms. Here's hoping that we've got enough caffeine to see it right through to the end on this Friday episode. But anyway, Jana, tell us, what was your aha moment realizing that you are a nonlinear thinker?
Oh, it actually, it was a while. So I struggled because I was that person. I think everyone, like before we realized that, linear, not linear, I was struggling to focus on one thing. And I remember my parents were always making fun of me. They're like, come on, look, we're not buying you the gear for this new thing because you're going to change your mind in a month's time. So I was all over. And the first person who actually helped me realize that was my boss, like old boss, like many, many years ago. And he was like, you're just very unique. And that's actually good because you are capable of multitasking and you are slightly autistic, but that's good. That's good because he himself has an Asperger, and a lot of developers in that company were Asperger, so it kind of like I kind of fit in. But that's when I felt really accepted, in that sense. And
that's very unusual to have a boss who both recognizes it and sees it as an asset straight away. Sometimes they need a bit of convincing. So that must have been amazing to find yourself amongst your own tribe from the beginning. What did that feel like?
Yeah, it was so I was blessed with that, and then I started exploring more, things around that, and I came to acceptance, and then I figured there is this multi-potentialite thing, and then it became my thing.
Is there anything that you learned from that tribe or that boss that you still use in your day-to-day life today? Any tips from your original multi-potential tribe? No. Okay, never mind.
There were a lot of things, but I think it's more of the acceptance that it's an asset. It can be an asset, and it's a good thing. And basically, it just gave me that invite to self-explore further and research and see. And then I remember that at some point I had a personal coach, and she told me, like the development coach, and she told me, but that's what makes you unique. This whole bouquet of many interests that you have and the skills that you have, that what makes you unique. So that's your power. And since that, I just cherish it.
So how have you brought all those different interests and managed to leverage them into like a single espresso shot that ignites startup energy and gets companies firing up? How do you focus it all into that one kick that they need?
Well, you see, like I still like to keep quite a lot of projects around me, and I work with I'm helping with building the resort in Sri Lanka now. I'm working with coffee industry. I'm working with people a lot. I still consult in the fintech industry. But like all that experience, it brings that strength and brings that agility in me, and I can understand pretty much like that. Being a coach, for example, that comes so handy because I can understand person from any background, and I can talk on any topic, and it's super easy and smooth. So yeah.
Amazing. So almost like just by having all of the differences and all of the different interests, they all kind of interweave themselves together to form the little espresso. Well, it's not a little espresso shot, is it? It's a massive espresso shot that gets these things firing up.
Yeah, but
What is your
even like
favorite
if you
type of?
know, if you look from this instance, you brought in the espresso, it's kind of like the same in the coffee, because coffee, we can take the same beans, we can take the same plant, but like it takes the same beans, but then we process them differently, and we process and we roast and we prepare them differently, and we get a very different shots of espresso, and they will be, all of them will be unique, but differently balanced. So that's exactly like us humans.
What type of bean would you be if you were a coffee bean?
Oh, I think that I would definitely be Yemeni beans, Yemeni coffee beans. I think we have some very weird, strong connection with Yemeni producers. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. I think I'd be an Ethiopian Yirgacheffe bean. I don't know why. It's just because they're my favorite ones. I don't know.
Okay.
Or possibly an Nescafe Gold. Who knows? Um, so, um, just thinking there about what is your favorite type of coffee, by the way? How do you like your coffee?
Definitely pour over. So it's either V60 or Chemex. Those two.
I'll pretend I know what either of those means. We'll take what's wrong with a
Filtered
good old
coffee.
filter?
That would be a filtered coffee. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm a cafetiere guy, but well, I don't know what that says. What does our cup of coffee say about us? Is there some research on that about what how you take your coffee says about you as a person?
Well, of course, there is a lot of speculation about that, but I would say I would ask you what your coffee says about you. You know.
French press. I go on strike often, but I work best under pressure. I don't know. Who knows? So you said that you find loads of balance as a coach, and you've got loads of different interests. How do you find the balance and find your own kind of way and find your own path through all these interests to make a kind of forge your own successful path in this way? What do you follow? What do they smell or your gut instinct, or how do you know where to go?
Um, I mean, it will sound maybe tacky, but I follow my heart, and I learned, with years of various practices, spiritual practices, yoga practice, whatever. I developed very, very deep connection with my body, and that has helped me a lot. So I literally listen to my gut feeling, gut and heart kind of connected, and if it's a yes, then that's a yes, and if it's like maybe, most likely
Mm,
it's a no. So I always follow that feeling of feeling good. If something feels good, then I will go in that direction. If it doesn't, my personal life experience tells me that that's not going to be a pleasant experience anyways. So like
mm.
I'm making a lot of effort. Sounds counterintuitive, but I make a lot of effort not to stress out. So like I really like my life flowing in a nice and soft way.
And yet, your favorite drink is coffee, which is the opposite effect almost, isn't it? How does this work?
Not,
What is this
not on me.
contradiction, this
Not on me.
paradox?
I can drink coffee and go to bed. I'm good.
Really interesting. What about cacao? Just makes it strikes me there. Cacao is traditionally thought of as the heart drink, and it's connected deeply to the heart and the emotions. Have you had a good
Yes.
cacao ceremony?
Yeah. I do cacao ceremonies, and I have a ceremonial cacao at home. That's the only one that I drink, and
Yeah.
it is beautiful, and it is also highly caffeinated.
I wonder where the psychedelic bit came from. It is slightly psychedelic, isn't it? Um,
Definitely, definitely.
yeah.
I'm a strong believer that coffee is a plant medicine, and because how else human would figure out that you need to take the seed out of the cherry, dry it out, roast it,
Mm.
grind it, brew it. It's a lot of steps. So I think it is just as a plant medicine. It has shown people.
Yes. Although it makes you wonder how we discovered milk, doesn't it? But anyway, let's not think about it too much. Um, so, so thinking about our Octopus Movement vision, it sounds like you're really connected in bringing all of these different parts together. And you describe yourself as a networking maestro, I do believe, bringing all these different parts and people together. How do you do that as a nonlinear thinker? What's your secret to connecting all these people, being a part of the human mycelium yourself?
That would be curiosity. So I'm naturally super curious person, and that helps me connecting with people. Because what I noticed as since I have a history of corporate career, like, and I've been all this networking events nonstop, and it's always just scratching the surface, because networking by default, it's like very shallow, kind of just like touching the brief point, and then you're moving on to the next person. And then at some point I was like, it just drained me so much that I felt like I just want to be curious. Every person that I meet, I will be curious. And instead of meeting 50 people, I prefer to meet 5 people, but like really get to the core. And that's how I started developing much deeper conversations, and then connection stays. And I always try to connect people, just thinking like, oh, this, like, I don't think about business, but I think like, oh, they're vibing on the same level, even if they're from completely different industries. So I normally try to introduce people like that. And it's always something interesting comes out of it. It's always very beautiful collaborations which happening. So I think we need to learn how to look behind the title or the business, or like whatever person does, because there is a person behind all that, and connect on that level.
And how do you manage to connect with people using this kind of curiosity and it not come off as nosy? When does curiosity become nosiness?
I think when the curiosity is like truly curious, then I don't think it's
Got a good
noisy.
intent behind it.
Maybe I'm like, am I now when I'm thinking maybe I'm annoying people?
No,
But
I
I
don't
think,
know.
because I think, like when it's a childlike curiosity and you're really genuinely curious, it doesn't come across as noisy.
No, true. No. Although if you keep asking why all the time, it doesn't go down well with your boss, I've discovered. No. But
Yeah, well, maybe not why, but
why?
something more creative.
So what unsolvable problems then have you managed to solve? Unsolvable problems have you managed to solve through connecting people and through bringing your espresso kick shots to business? And what's your like juicy problem that you're trying to solve at the moment, or what's your juicy problem that you've already solved?
Oh, that's a good question. I haven't reflected. That's like a proper coaching question, that I can take an hour to unpack. I'm not sure we have time for
We
that.
don't have time, so we'll just scratch the surface on this one, but we can always come back for an episode 2.
Well, for me, always like I love a good challenge. And for me, great challenges, usually they are around things that I dive into a new industry for me, and I ace it very quickly. And I do that through building connections. So I will give you a simple, like the most recent example is coffee industry. I was new, like I'm still new to coffee industry. Yeah. So I got interested in coffee just last year. So in the fall of last year, I started my formal training in the coffee industry.
God, you've gone balls to the wall with coffee in the meantime. Your whole company's named after it and everything. I mean, you're
Yeah,
keen.
so and then I established the company, and I brought the coffee into the mindfulness and coaching game. And by the time we had our World of Coffee event in Dubai, which is the biggest coffee event of the year, it was in January, I was kind of already in the industry. But I'm that weird person that I'm a coach that also speaks coffee language. So for coffee people, I'm standing out, and for coaches, I'm standing out because I'm kind of like in both words, and it's very interesting for people. So it's just like took me 3 months, but I was already invited to the major roasting houses, and people want to know me, people in the coffee industry, and they want to know my opinion, and they want to talk to me. So I think it's really a cool thing, because half a year ago I didn't know where to start. I was like clueless. And just by asking, I drove crazy a lot of baristas in town and around the world, wherever I traveled. I would really talk to baristas. I visit local roasteries and so on. So I think like this networking, that's what got me where I am now.
And have you had to learn how to do the froth art, or have you managed to get through without having to do any of that?
Yeah, I did the barista course as well. So yeah, it is actually very challenging to do a proper a latte,
No, I
or
won't
like
even tell you what my
this
ones
little
would have like
heart.
when I
Oh
tried
my
them.
God.
Yeah. Um, oh, I've lost my track of thought there because I was just thinking of frothy milk flowers. I think that's what I was thinking of.
I think I lost you. Okay, you're back.
Sorry, it turns out my coffee was just already there. No, I'm sorry, I didn't think I had some connection issues there. So your juicy problem that you're solving is around the world of coffee, and you've already in a short time managed to get all the way into the top roasting houses there. So how can what can nonlinear thinkers take away from that? What kind of essences of your nonlinearity have really been an asset to you and taken you this far? And what can our listeners take away from that?
Well, I think that, like, because this is blending coaching and consulting and coffee and mindfulness, like I'm literally blending non-blendable things that many would say, and I think this is very
Mm,
non-linear thing. But that what gives me this competitive edge, I think, and that what brings me closer to people, and gives me the variety of experiences. So I think, like, for me, it's just, I always say, like, don't, like, just look at me, like, if I've done it, you can do it. It's just believing and just being curious and just exploring and just really diving into whatever interests you. Because what I hear very often, people would say, like, oh, like, but like, I'm doing this thing, and like, this interests me, but I will not dive in like really deep, because like what it will give me back. Even when I started coffee, a lot of my friends, they were like, why are you doing that? You can't really monetize this, and it's like, it's a lot of investment from your end. Why are you doing that? It's not your line of business. And I said,
mm,
like, I don't know, but it really fascinates me. I want to explore it. I'll figure it out. And then Bean to Being was born. So it's like it beautifully blended all together.
mm. Just trying to think what my interests are that I should be following. But yes, so I imagine coffee world being quite intense with all these coffee lovers there. I imagine it being a bit like what I imagine Cocaine Anonymous to be, just a very intense people, just on high energy all the time. But maybe it's not like that at all. I don't know. Um,
Yeah, it's energetic for sure.
yeah, and
But
mindfulness
like
with
in
coffee.
Middle East, like coffee for us, we drink coffee day and night. So it's kind of like,
Is
yeah,
all
I guess
secretly
we have
drinking decaf and no
immunity.
one's really admitting it? Is that what's going on? Is everyone on the decaf beans trying to black market?
My favorite roasteries, they don't serve decaf. And like actually none of the local roasteries would serve decaf. That's a disgrace.
Right.
But there is a low calf coffee bean. So it's a fairly new thing. So
Decaf
they're not
drinkers deserve
roasted
love too,
naturally low.
So um, you well, I'm kind of trying to follow our own mycelium here. We're going a bit all over the shops, but that's okay. Um, so we've checked out our human mycelium. We've checked our unsolvable problem solving it, and you were telling me how what non-linear thinkers can take away from your experience, and just be curious, follow your interests, and just really go where your interests are. What about the interface between linear and non-linear thinkers? It's often a bit of a blunt impact there, and can sometimes go really well, as you did when for you at work, and sometimes it can be a bit of a dull thud that doesn't really land very well. You seem to have made it land very well. What have you done there to kind of really get these beige linear people on board? How do you get them with you?
Well, honestly, I never think, and I don't like, dividing people in general, linear, not linear, straight, gay, like all that, women, female, like female, male, all that. So for me, it's like, I just said, yeah, it's like, it's human and human. Everyone is at the core. I think we're all very, very similar. And I'm really like against this kind of like black and white thinking or like dividing people. And I think that what helps me also really blend into any community, maybe kind of like being quite reckless and clueless in a way, because like I don't even think that I'm different somehow, and I just like go in and then I'm like, oh, okay. It's like when I was in the banking industry and like I'm going into the financial center and they're all bankers, and I'm going in my hippie clothes and I'm like all excited, and I feel like one of them, so I'm not even noticing that.
But do they feel like you're one of them? So you might not feel different, but often in corporate, they notice the outsider much faster.
They would be always the first one to notice that I stand out.
And how have you survived that? Because often standing out in the corporate world it's not, an effective long-term strategy often. So how did you manage to make it an effective strategy for you?
I think that it actually brought a lot of respect for me. Eventually I left the corporate world, of course, because I realized that it's not for me. But I was always that kind of like weird person in a corporate world. But I got actually quite a lot of respect for being so authentic. And people really appreciated that. And I had like my old boss, he always appreciates that I was very direct, and I would say some things that everyone would shy away from, and I would just name it, just not intentionally. I wasn't doing it on purpose. It's just because that's the way I am. But like we met with him, and like I'm not working for him for like 6-7 years, and he still remembers that and appreciates that. He's like, that's like, you were like the one who would just say the truth. So it goes both ways. I think we create a lot of problems in our head, and when we start overthinking and trying to blend in, that actually plays against us. So I think like just being authentic, and whatever. If it's not our crowd, it's not our crowd.
Yeah, I'm with you. Although I'm wondering how you got away with saying all the truth in corporate, because I was very authentically saying it and I didn't get away with it at all. But anyway, maybe it's how we said it. Who knows? I'm more disagreeable than you, clearly. So thinking about the future, where's the future going for you? How do you see our sustainable future unfolding as a group of non-linear thinkers, or even just as a world of coffee drinkers?
I see, like my personal mission in this world is to help everyone be more authentic and like true to themselves. And I want to make it like very, very simple, because I feel that all the self-development, self-awareness, coaching, mindfulness industry became overcomplicated, unnecessarily overcomplicated. And I think that simplicity is the key. And that's where I think the world is moving. Actually, very, very, very interestingly, in both self-development and awareness industries, and mindfulness and coffee as well. That's where we're heading, to the simplicity. And I think that's the future. So the coffee is becoming simpler. And I'm talking,
Thank God.
because we notice in the coffee industry, we talk quite a lot about it, like those who for a long time in the coffee industry, and me funnily. But we discussed that even coffee industry, it became too complicated when we get carried away as the experts in the scoring of the coffee, like thinking about those flavor profiles and numbers that you give on the evaluation sheet. And everyone is craving that simpler, just enjoying.
Nescafe Gold. Everyone's back to the Nescafe Gold.
Exactly. Yeah. You kind of want, you don't want to think. You just want to drink coffee. Surely we're going in a direction of specialty coffee and like single origin, on honoring the farmers and whatever. But we want to enjoy. And I think the same is happening in the world of self-development and mindfulness industry, when we eventually coming to the realizations that all the answers are within, and it's just a matter, like, we don't need all those expensive tools and retreats and yada yada. You don't need to follow the gurus and travel to Himalayas to unlock something that is already in you. So the simplicity is the key. It's about shredding the layers instead of adding more
and breathe. It's pretty much it, isn't it? I mean, I've done Vipassana, and that was the crux of it, to be honest. Sit down, shut up, and breathe. Yeah,
and just everything is inside, and I think that's the future. The future is much simpler.
Do you think the authentic self then is something that, and it's like an essence or a core that runs through somebody that we have to strip back to, or is it like our imagined best self that we have to work towards or strive for?
I think it's stripping down to. I think we have the core, our true authentic self. And if we, if we think, going back to the childhood, what were our dreams, what were our thoughts? They were authentic ones before we developed some coping mechanism and were affected by the society and were influenced with some opinions.
And all the trauma, Jana. Oh my God.
Not talking about trauma, That's also, the glorification of the trauma. I see also a big issue, because sometimes things are much simpler.
Yeah, but sometimes things were traumatic.
That's true.
I wanted to be a brachiosaurus when I was 5. How do I do that now? How do I do that? How do I live that? So
come to coaching.
I am a coach. What action can our listeners, the linear and the non-linear thinking alike, do to embrace this coffee bean spirit? Then one thing that our people can do right now after this episode to just embrace some of your espresso thinking.
I love self-reflection, and I love using coffee as a self-reflection tool. So I would say next time you go in, whether you do your coffee or you order your coffee, just pause for a minute, reflect back. What is it that you want to feel after this cup of coffee? What are you feeling now? What do you want to feel after? Choose that coffee, choose those beans, or choose that coffee drink at the coffee shop mindfully, and reflect after how that made you feel. For me, that's like a great tool to really give yourself a gift of 15 minutes of reflection and self-connection.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. That brings this week's episode of the Octopus Movement to a close. My thanks to your wisdom, insights, and multi-potential mind with us today. If anyone would like to reach out to you, Jana, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, or you can find me on Instagram. It's jana.bean2being. So both are fine. bean2being.com. There are all my contacts as well. So
thank you very much. Wonderful. Of course, if you have questions on how you can join the movement, or want to discuss other ways, other hot drinks and hot beverages, feel free to reach out to me, Aidan Gillen Bronze, on LinkedIn, or visit theoctopusmovement.org. Never forget that every mind has the potential to be an octopus mind. Embrace your unique way of thinking, join the movement, and make something tentacular happen. Don't forget it's Autism Awareness Month, so find somebody autistic in your life and ask them how you can be more aware of how they see the world. Our podcast returns at the same time every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I look forward to seeing you again in a couple of weeks. We'll still be celebrating Autism Awareness Month. See you then. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Jana.